I worked on, and I'd love your feedback. We're about to redo this for the Durban Climate Summit. So this is called The Story of Cap and Trade. It was done for the Copenhagen Climate Summit about a year and 4 months ago as part of the Story of Stuff series. Shall we just take it right from the start? Yeah. It's only 8 minutes, so do think about it like, is it up to date? Can we improve on it as we think about the next version?
This is a story about a world obsessed with stuff. It's a story about a system in crisis. We're trashing the planet, we're trashing each other, and we're not even having fun. The good thing is that when we start to understand the system, we start to see lots of places to step in and turn these problems into solutions. I am so glad that the world is finally getting together to stop climate change. When I first heard that our leaders were meeting to talk about solutions, I breathed a huge sigh of relief. Didn't you? Then I said, wait a minute, what exactly are they planning to do about this problem? So I looked into it. And I gotta tell you, not all the solutions they're working on are what I'd call solutions. In fact, the leading solution, known as cap and trade or emissions trading, is actually a huge problem. Now, I know this is the last thing you want to hear, but the future of our planet is at stake, so we gotta take the time to understand what's going on here. Okay, meet the guys at the heart of this so-called solution. They include the guys from Enron, who designed energy trading, and the Wall Street financiers like Goldman Sachs, who gave us the subprime mortgage crisis. Their job is to develop brand new markets. They stake their claims, and then when everyone and their grandmother wants in, they make off with huge amounts of money as the market becomes a giant bubble and bursts. Well, their latest bubble just burst, and now they have a new idea for a market: trading carbon pollution. They're about to develop a new $3 trillion bubble. But when this one bursts, it won't just take down our stock portfolios, it could take down everything. So how does cap and trade work? Well, pretty much all serious scientists agree that we need to reduce the amount of carbon in the atmosphere to 350 parts per million if we want to avoid climate disaster. In the US, that means reducing our emissions by 80%, maybe even more, by 2050. 80%! Now the problem is that most of our global economy runs on burning fossil fuels, which releases carbon. The factories that make all our stuff, the ships and trucks that carry it around the world, our cars and buildings and appliances and just about everything. So how are we going to reduce carbon 80% and not go back to living like Little House on the Prairie? Well, these cap and trade guys are saying that a new carbon stock market is the best way to get it done. The first step would be getting governments around the world to agree on a yearly limit on carbon emissions. That's the cap. I think that part is great. So how do they want to ensure that carbon emissions stay under the cap? Well, governments would distribute a certain amount of permits to pollute. Every year there would be fewer and fewer permits as we follow the cap to our goal. Innovative companies will get on board, building clean alternatives and getting more efficient. As permits get scarcer, they would also become more valuable. So naturally, companies who have extra will want to sell them to companies who need them. That's where the trading comes in. The logic is that as long as we stay under the cap, it doesn't matter who pollutes and who innovates. We'll meet our climate deadline, avoiding catastrophe, and oh yeah, these guys take their fee as they broker this multi-trillion-dollar carbon market. Save the planet, get rich, what's not to like? Some of my friends who really care about our future support cap and trade. A lot of environmental groups that I respect do too. They know it's not a perfect solution and they don't love the idea of turning our planet's future over to these guys, but they think it's an important first step and that it's better than nothing. I'm not so sure. And I'm not the only one. A growing movement of scientists, students, farmers, and forward-thinking business people are all saying, wait a minute. In fact, even the economists who invented the cap and trade system to deal with simpler problems like fertilizer pollution and sulfur dioxide, they say cap and trade will never work for climate change. Here's why I think they're right. When it comes to any kind of financial scam, like subprime mortgages or Bernie Madoff's pyramid scheme, the devil is always in the details, and there are a lot of devils in the details of the cap and trade proposals on the table. Devil number one is known as free permits, which is why some people call this system cap and giveaway. In this scheme, industrial polluters will get the vast majority of these valuable permits for free. Free! The more they've been polluting, the more they get. It's like we're thanking them for creating this problem in the first place. In Europe, they tried a cap and giveaway system. The price of permits bounced around like crazy, energy costs jumped for consumers, and guess what? Carbon emissions actually went up. The only part that did work was that the polluters made billions of dollars in extra profits. MIT economists say the same thing would likely happen here in the US. Those billions come from our pockets. A real solution would put that money to work stopping climate change. Instead of just giving permits away to polluters, we could sell them and use the money to build a clean energy economy, or give citizens a dividend to help pay for higher fuel prices while we transition to that clean energy economy, or share it with those most harmed by climate change. Some people call this paying our ecological debt. Since we in the richest countries released the most carbon for centuries and lived a pretty comfy lifestyle in the process, don't we have a responsibility to help those most harmed? It's like we had a big party, didn't invite our neighbors, and then stuck them with the cleanup bill. It's just not cool. Did you know that in the next century, because of the changing climate, whole island nations could end up underwater? And the UN says 9 out of 10 African farmers could lose their ability to grow food. Now, wouldn't a real solution benefit these people instead of just the polluters? Devil number 2 is called offsetting. Offset permits are created when a company supposedly removes or reduces carbon. They then get a permit which can be sold to a polluter who wants permission to emit more carbon. In theory, one activity offsets the other. The danger with offsets is it's very hard to guarantee that real carbon is being removed to create the permit, yet these permits are worth real money. This creates a very dangerous incentive to create false offsets, to cheat. Now, in some cases, cheating isn't the end of the world, but in this case, it is. And already there's a lot of cheating going on. Like in Indonesia, Sinar Mas Corporation cut down indigenous forests, causing major ecological and cultural destruction. Then they took the wasteland they created and planted palm oil trees. Guess what they can get for it? Yep, offset permits. Carbon out? No. Carbon in? You bet. Companies can even earn offsets for not doing anything at all. Like operators of a polluting factory can claim they were planning to expand 200%, but reduce the plans to expand only 100%. For that meaningless claim, they get offset permits. Permits that they can sell to someone else to make more pollution. That is so stupid. The list of scams go on, and many of the worst ones happen in the so-called third world, where big business does whatever it wants to whomever it wants. And with lax standards and regulations on offsets, they can get permits for just about anything. Devils 1 and 2, cap and giveaway and offsetting, make the system unfair and ineffective. But the last devil, which I call distraction, makes it downright dangerous. You see, there are real solutions out there, but cap and trade with its loopholes and promises of riches have made many people forget all about them. We're not even close to a global agreement on a carbon cap to begin with, and that is the whole point of cap and trade. But instead of hammering out a fair and strong deal, we're putting the cart before the horse and rushing off to trade schemes and offsets. With all the bogus offset projects, huge giveaways to polluters, and the failure to address the injustices of climate change, do you think the third world will get on board with a global cap? I doubt it. If a cap and trade proposal is stopping us from actually capping carbon, it's a dangerous distraction. We don't need to let these guys design the solution. We, us, our governments, we can make laws and do it ourselves. In my country, we already have a law, the Clean Air Act, that confirms that carbon is a pollutant which our environmental agency is allowed to cap. So what are we waiting for? Go, EPA, go, cap that carbon. Instead, a US cap and trade law proposed in 2009 guts the Clean Air Act, leaving it to the market to fix the problem. If a cap and trade proposal weakens our ability to make strong laws, it's a distraction. Concerned citizens around the world need to speak out and demand that we redesign our economies away from fossil fuels. But cap and trade makes citizens think everything will be okay if we just drive a little less, change our light bulbs, and let these guys do the rest. If cap and trade creates a false sense of progress, it's a dangerous distraction. These cap and trade proposals are mostly about protecting business as usual. Right now, the US subsidizes fossil fuels at more than twice the rate of renewables. What? We shouldn't be subsidizing fossil fuels at all. These guys don't seem to realize that the simplest way to keep carbon out of the atmosphere is to leave it safely in the ground. US Congressman Rick Boucher, a well-known friend of the coal industry, voted for cap and trade. He said it strengthens the case for utilities to continue to use coal. No law that encourages coal use can stop climate change, period. Solid caps, strong laws, citizen action, and carbon fees to pay off ecological debt and create a clean energy economy, that's how we can save our future. The next time someone tells you that cap and trade is the best we're going to get, don't believe them. Better yet, talk to them. They probably want a future safe from climate change too. Maybe they've just forgotten that you can only compromise to a point before a solution isn't really a solution. Look, I know we'd love to sacrifice nothing, save the planet, and get rich doing it. But get real. This is the biggest crisis humanity has ever faced. We can't solve it with the mindset, their mindset, that got us into this mess. We need something new. It won't be easy, but it's time we dream bigger. It's time to design a climate solution that will really work.
Shall we, do you want to get your laptop set up here and stuff? My name is Blair Rutherford. I'm the director of the Institute of African Studies. I'm very pleased to introduce Patrick Bond, Dr. Patrick Bond. As many of you may know, Patrick is a leading political economist of Africa. He's based at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Durban, South Africa. He's trained as a geographer under the well-known Marxist geographer David Harvey. He's a true activist intellectual. Patrick writes prolifically, writes a range of types of writings, books, articles, newspaper articles, briefs for activists, policy analysts. Patrick's CV would be very long and it would take us hours to go over, but just to note, Patrick has worked from governments to Mandela's government to the Aristide government to more recently he's done a lot of work with activist groups, he's done work with trade unions, does work with civil society activists, social justice movements. Patrick, I think one way of I can't really capture Patrick, but one way of letting people get a sense about Patrick is to note the title of the great listserv that Patrick started about 4 or 5 years ago. 10 years. It's called Debate. A lot of people based in Africa, Europe, the Americas, Australia are engaged in it. And Patrick is here to provide a strong analysis, but to provoke people to think, to discuss, and to debate, which is what we all claim to do, but not all of us are able to do it. And Patrick's exemplary in bringing this analysis forward and doing it in a way that provokes us to think, as we saw in this little video before. This is part of the Africa Dialogue series, which the Institute of African Studies has been delighted to be putting on with the South African High Commission since the fall of 2009 when we began as an Institute of African Studies. The aim of the Africa Dialogue series is to look at policy, political issues facing the continent of Africa and to bring discussion going. Patrick is a wonderful person to continue this discussion and debate we've had over the last two years. The title of his talk is Africa and the Politics of Climate Justice, and I present Patrick.
Thanks. Well, it is really a great honor, and I really enjoyed coming to Carleton. There's such good vibes in Ottawa and such sharp people. And I'm especially grateful that the High Commissioner had us over a bit earlier, and we got to know Mahal Pekko's an old friend of mine who really has inspired so many South Africans. I hope all of you will get a chance to get to know High Commissioner Mahal Pekko and her colleagues here, Johan Manesh and the others. I'm very grateful for your support. And really the idea is, especially after about 10 days ago, the South African government stood up to Barack Obama. He called Jacob Zuma and said, don't let that Jean-Bertrand Aristide get back to Haiti before the big election they had last week. An election which a certain political party, Lavalas family, with massive support, was banned. So, because Canada was part of the kidnapping of Jean-Bertrand Aristide in 2004, I know you felt just as proud as I did that somebody can stand up to Obama and say, no, Aristide has to go home. It's only just. It's only just that the beginning of democracy again with the return of Aristide and finally a popular will being established happens because South Africa stood up. And that's what we'll, of course, be hoping for in November. And so part of what I'm addressing is a set of politics that culminate at least a little bit in November in Durban at the Conference of the Parties of the Kyoto Protocol. This